Welcome to Flashback to a Fabulous Future with Cheryl Johnson. Over the next hour, you'll learn how the past influences the future and how you can create a fabulous future for yourself. Now, here's Cheryl.
Welcome to today's episode of Flashback to a Fabulous Future. We're taking a slightly different journey through time. Today, we're not just talking about history in the traditional sense. No, today's episode is about the memories of a not-so-distant past, experiences so recent that many of us may not even realize we've been living through future history textbooks. In this special episode, we'll be delving into topics and events that have shaped our lives in profound ways. From the technological revolutions that have transformed how we communicate to the social movements that have reshaped our societies, we're exploring the moments that, unbeknownst to us, have been making history. This isn't about dates, battles, or treaties. It's about the feeling of holding your first smartphone, the emotion stirred by watching monumental events unfold on TV, and the personal growth that we've experienced through global challenges. These are the stories of our times, the memories that connect us all, not as distant observers, but as active participants in the unfolding saga of humanity. So whether you're listening from the comfort of your home or on the go, join us as we reflect on these shared experiences. Let's rediscover these moments not as history, but as the memories that have brought us to where we are today. Together, we're not just studying history, we're acknowledging that we are indeed making history. So stay tuned as we embark on this unique journey through the not-so-distant past, right here on Flashback to a Fabulous Future. So let's get started. After years of general peace and prosperity, the tide of the 1980s and the 1990s took a major shift. The traumatic events of September 11, 2001 profoundly reshaped American policies, psyche, and perceptions of itself and the world. As plumes of smoke choked lower Manhattan, where the proud Twin Towers once stood, 2,977 innocent lives were horrifically extinguished. Untold more would be altered forever. A stunned nation reeled in disbelief. The attacks ripped away illusions of invulnerability, exposing an urgent need to reform intelligence coordination and homeland security preparedness. Policymakers urgently marshaled resources to prevent repeat blindsides and safeguard citizens. Their decisive Patriot Act impacted privacy rights and surveillance procedures. Backers called it necessary, critics overreaching. Its expansion of data gathering aimed to quickly identify threats, but in an open society, far-reaching monitoring risks chilling rights like free speech, assembly, and religious affiliation, and fears that data could be misused or leaked enduringly persist. Additionally, in pursuing overseas terrorist elements, the U.S. military became embroiled in draining foreign occupations. Well-intentioned attempts to replace extremist regimes with democracy instead produced power vacuums filled by new militants and insurgencies. American ideals call us to champion freedom globally. Yet affecting lasting change often lies beyond even a superpower's might. 2 somber decades later, 9/11 remains seared into American psyche, a collective trauma intuitively referenced as the impetus for major policy shifts. These attacks birthed the Department of Homeland Security, reshaped airline travel, propelled privacy debates, and initiated military interventions that still drag on. Such a complex legacy resists easy categorization as justified or excessive. In truth, it reflects human responses to calamity, lurching between fearful self-protection and confident idealism. The quest ahead lies in striking the right balance between security and liberty, between pragmatism and principle. If we learn sensible restraint, 9/11 may mark not just tragedies nadir, but the start of renewed unity and wisdom. The 1990s roared with the dual engines of Clintonian charisma and internet-fueled optimism. The magnetic political pairing of President Bill Clinton and Vice President Al Gore steered a booming economy and pioneered digital age visions, which we will explore in a moment. Despite partisan clashes with Speaker Newt Gingrich's contract with America, Congress-savvy centrist Clinton presided over rising wages, low employment, and a record-shattering tech stock surge. But the soothing balm of home ownership has long defined the American dream. But this emblem of middle-class achievement rested on fragile foundations leading up to 2008. An ultimately disastrous combination of low lending standards, predatory products, and irrational optimism fueled a housing bubble destined to deflate dramatically. Through the 1990s and early 2000s, achieving home ownership grew increasingly easy as lenders relaxed requirements to expand market share. Subprime mortgages featuring zero down payments, low teaser rates, and deferred balloon payments enabled buyers to enter the market with little skin in the game. Demand surged as more households joined the presumed escalator to wealth-building equity. Soaring home prices suggested no limits ahead, even as underlying risks mounted. Exotic loan structures meant owners had meager cushions if prices fell, and fall they inevitably did when the house-hungry pool of buyers shrank. As distressed borrowers defaulted in droves, the worldwide financial system teetered toward meltdown. Trillions in associated bonds and derivatives plunged in value, bankrupting key market players like Lehman Brothers seemingly overnight. Markets reeled while Main Street wondered why its backyard aspirations now jeopardized the whole economy. Complex modern finance had allowed mortgage risks to camouflage themselves within layered securities, obscure themselves in over-the-counter markets, then detonate unexpectedly across global balance sheets. Yet their blast radius still traced back to an ideal, the quest to put every family under its own roof, that proved as naive as it was well-intentioned. In retrospect, the crash was an indictment of both greed and groupthink. Lenders chased profits by promoting purchases people couldn't afford. Ratings agencies rubber-stamped flawed products out of complacency. Regulators assumed rising markets signified stability, not latent risk. It all proved a recipe for disaster with tragic costs that linger today. Wealth destruction now referred to as the Great Recession, generational setbacks for economic mobility and retirement security, and enduring cynicism around whether playing by the rules still offers a path to prosperity. During this same period, Barack Obama undeniably represented a watershed moment as the first African American president. Yet the symbolism of his election speaks more to America's possibilities than to the complex realities of his legacy. As both a trailblazing leader and a polarizing figure, assessments resist simple verdicts. Obama brought renowned oratorial gifts, Ivy League legal training, and an inspiring interracial family pedigree to the world stage. After the turbulence of the Bush years, Obama's reformist platform of hope, change, and unity resonated wildly. Voters saw possibility in supporting an erudite figure uniquely capable of bridging old divides. And yet Obama's conciliatory public rhetoric coexisted alongside his early mentoring ties with more radical activists like William Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn. The contrast highlights complexities in reconciling progressive reform with centrist coalition building. Obama's reconciliatory gift proved unable to untangle festering conflicts as president. Ironically, electing the first black president also saw race relations deteriorate on his watch. Critics attacked policies by questioning Obama's citizenship and religion. Police brutality flashpoints ignited unrest while exposing unresolved minority frustrations. Here, the symbolic promise of Obama's post-racial vision collided with alternative activist worldviews, gaining little through his election. Unlike Martin Luther King's appeal to unity, Obama's intellectual gifts didn't generate mass nonviolent movements nor bend the moral arc swiftly toward justice. His professor-like leadership style brought legislative success but struggled to transform culture. Racial healing demands movement of the heart, not just laws, toward change. In between critics alleging Obama moved too far left, or not far enough, like complex realities, Obama proved both savvy centrist dealmaker and a polarizing lightning rod. As a trailblazer, he offered a glimpse at America's opportunities. As a president beset by obstruction, then unrest, he revealed barriers to deep reconciliation still ahead. Dreams can arrive ahead of the difficult work still required for their realization, but symbols and policies can complement one another when translating ideals into reality. Moving on to technology. Technological leaps inevitably reshape societies, at times uniting, often dividing. As information flows expand from trickles to floods, controlling narratives become impossible. New channels of information create choice, but also confusion. Each innovation must run the gauntlet between amplifying truth and lies. The printing press democratized information, seeding both Renaissance thinking and Inquisition repression. Trains and cars brought mobility along with pollution. Planes shrank distances, enabled immigration, and made war global. Radio and TV broadcast unity, but also division, as politicians stalked the flames of division for political gain. The internet has outsized impact due to its reach and pace. Social media binds communities but enables tribalism. Algorithms polarize. Censorship shuts down voices. Power accrues to big tech, nimbly shaping narratives. Advanced technologies like artificial intelligence allocate ever greater sway to programmers over users. In the 2000s, the widespread adoption of smartphones, including devices like the BlackBerry and later the Apple iPhone and Android smartphones, brought about profound changes in the way people conducted business. These powerful, pocket-sized computers not only revolutionized communication, but also transformed the business landscape. Professionals could now access emails, documents, and even conduct video conferences on the go, allowing for greater flexibility and productivity in the workplace. Additionally, the emergence of video conferencing platforms like Zoom and similar tools reshaped business operations. They enabled remote meetings and collaborations across geographical boundaries, reducing the need for physical presence and expanding opportunities for global business interactions. These technological advancements not only streamlined communication, but also catalyzed the transition toward a more digital, flexible, and interconnected business environment in the 21st century. The only constant is that no technology remains politically neutral for long. Information abundance resists singular narratives, eventually fueling decentralization. But initially, innovations concentrate influence before diffusion brings equilibrium. Through this lens, today's fake news angst echoes prior growing pains. Early trains birthed robber barons. Automakers redlined cities. Radio offered propaganda platforms. TV and even phones faced regulation to limit concentration or bias. Technology amplification produces overcorrections of progress, then of its consequences. Wisdom lies in patience for decentralizing trends to emerge. Alternatives sprout to counter centralized power. Time passes. Choices and access expand. Radical ideas are co-opted and normalized. The questions ahead are whether censorship or surveillance will temporarily choke online discourse, and whether cooler heads will prevail before societies splinter further. But the arc of history suggests information yearns to be free. This too shall pass. Opposing views will keep clashing online. Yet technology will facilitate a truce one day. AI and Web 3.0 will themselves open new debates, produce calls for their regulation, but ultimately the truth will out and the center will hold. The rise of Donald Trump to the presidency in 2016 marked a seismic shift in American politics, an event characterized by its unexpectedness and the fervent divisions it would later exacerbate. Hillary Clinton was the heir apparent, and her supporters were devastated and shocked by her loss. His tenure, culminating in a contentious 2020 election, became a focal point for deep-seated divisions, sparking intense vitriol and debate over the nation's direction. This period, further complicated by the COVID-19 pandemic, mirrored historical health crisis, like the Spanish flu and the Black Plagues in Europe in its controversial policy responses, yet was unique in the modern challenges it presented, from information censorship to economic upheaval. The pandemic's management and the comparison of its policies to those of past epidemics raised significant concerns about freedom of speech and the role of government in public health. Meanwhile, the economy reeled under the weight of lockdowns and restrictions, leading to a reevaluation of voting behaviors and a heated discourse surrounding election integrity. This discourse was further inflamed by actions perceived as the weaponization of federal agencies, contrasting responses to the January 6th Capitol riot and the protests during the summer of 2020, which included violent incidents and widespread unrest. The aftermath of George Floyd's death and the subsequent legal actions against Derek Chauvin and other officers have continued to fuel debates over justice, policing, and systemic bias, especially as new information emerges that could exonerate Officer Chauvin. Amidst this, the ongoing lawfare faced by Donald Trump and his allies underscore a broader crisis of confidence in public institutions, deepening the divide within the country. This era in American history underscores a complex interplay of leadership, societal changes, and the struggle for unity amidst diverging realities. It reflects a nation at a crossroads, grappling with the legacy of its choices and the path forward, hopefully toward reconciliation and healing. As we wrap up today's episode, it's crucial to reflect on the profound truth that the decisions we make today are not just for us. They're for the generations that will follow, much like the choices our founding fathers made. Those brave individuals laid down principles and fought for freedoms they themselves would never fully enjoy. They were pioneers, visionaries, and who understood the importance, even if they wouldn't reap the benefits in their lifetimes. We stand at a similar crossroads today. Each decision we make, each action we take is a brick in the foundation of the future we are building for our posterity. It's easy to get caught up in the immediacy of our lives, focusing on what benefits us here and now. But the truth is, we are blazing a trail for others to follow, much like a path through a dense forest that future generations will travel with ease, thanks to our efforts. Embracing our role in shaping history requires a selfless perspective. It asks us to be pioneers in our own right, to sacrifice immediate gratification for the betterment of those who will come after us. This doesn't mean that our lives are any less significant. Rather, it elevates our purpose, knowing that our actions today can create a legacy of freedom, innovation, and prosperity for future generations. So as we move forward, let's carry with us the understanding that we are not merely living for ourselves. We are molding the future, crafting the history that will be studied, admired, and lived by our posterity. It's a noble, daunting task, but it's also an incredible opportunity to leave a mark that extends far beyond our own time on this earth. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. As we continue to navigate the challenges and opportunities of our era, let's do so with an eye toward the future, with the courage to make decisions that will light the way for those who will one day look back on us as their pioneers. Together, we can shape a history that will be remembered not just for what we achieved for ourselves, but for how we contributed to the saga of humanity. Until next time, let's embrace our role in history, making choices that will echo through the ages. This is Cheryl Johnson signing off from Flashback to a Fabulous Future. Let's make history together.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Flashback to a Fabulous Future. We hope today has helped you understand how the past influences the future and created the present. Until we talk again, have a beautiful week.